Good evening, everybody. Welcome tonight to our town council meeting. It is February 28th. Before we actually open our regular meeting, we are very fortunate to have with us today our Senator Rob Sampson from the 16th District and Representative Donna Veach from the House District 30. Also with us tonight, we have Troop 45, Boy Scout Troop 45. Is that the only troop that's here? Just 45? Is that right? Okay, very good. The Scouts are going to lead us in the pledge once we open up our meeting. So we're very happy to have them here as well. So I want to just open up. I want to welcome our legislators here, Senator Sampson, Representative Veach. It's a very busy time, I know, at the state. So we are very happy that you made some time for us here. And what I think we would like to do, the basic format, I thought, would be that we'll give both of our senator and representative a little bit of time to talk about what's going on in Hartford, and then open it up to the council for any questions, and then we will begin our meeting after that. And if they would like to stay for the meeting, that's fine. However, I know their schedule is very busy, and so if they have to leave, we understand that. Is that okay with everybody? Mm-hmm. Very good. So let's open it up. Senator, if you would start. We are very concerned about what's going on in Hartford. Can you give us kind of the lay of the land in the Senate, please?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and thank you for having me here tonight. I'm used to hearing myself echo in the microphone. Is it on? You can hear me okay?
I want to pick it up a little bit.
Thank
All
you.
this technology. Yeah. Anyway, so again, I'm very, very pleased to join you folks tonight, and especially since we are here in person. And sadly, the Connecticut General Assembly is still having the majority of its hearings and meetings via Zoom, and I am hoping that that ends at some point in the very near future. We are meeting in person for final passage in the House and the Senate. In fact, both chambers will be in on Wednesday, and I believe the topic of the day is to confirm some judges because there are deadlines. The legislative session just began. We are entering into our first round of committee meetings where the subject matter is something called concepts, which is really just basic broad outlines of legislation that will be contemplated during the legislative session. And then once those concepts are voted on, public hearings are then scheduled. And then after that, the committee meeting process will begin, where we will debate and vote on those items, and they will ultimately go to the House and Senate for voting there, and then to the governor. That's the essential process by which we operate. This couple of week period is very important, though, because this is the period of time where we decide really what's going to be accomplished during this legislative session. And there are certainly things I'd like to see accomplished. Number one, the crime issue is first and foremost, I think, on a lot of people's minds. And I believe that both parties need to come together to come up with solutions that are going to work across the state. I could go into a lot of detail about what brought us to this point, and I'd be happy to answer that question if you guys have it. But right now, we need to not point fingers. We need to come up with solutions and find out a resolution so that people in our community can feel safe at night. The cost of living, obviously, is another significant factor that we're all faced with. The price of gasoline is no secret. The cost of everything, the cost of goods and services, housing prices are going up. I'm a real estate agent, so I'm seeing that. There's just not enough inventory out there, and housing prices are climbing, which might benefit some people going forward. But right now, it's also very difficult for people to make a purchase. And I guess electric rates is another thing that I would say we should really be addressing, because electric rates continue to rise year after year. And that's a direct result of policies that are passed in the General Assembly. They cleverly find a way to not take responsibility and ownership for those decisions by passing the policies that drive up the rates, but then ultimately leaving it in the hands of a regulatory body called PURA, who ultimately makes the decision. We need to fix that so that that doesn't happen anymore and that the actual elected officials are accountable to their constituents. And I have a couple of special focuses myself this session beyond those top three things. Elections are very important to me. I would note for the council's benefit and the people watching that the Government Administration and Elections Committee, which I happen to be the ranking Republican on, is meeting on Friday morning beginning at 10 a.m. And we are taking up two very, very important bills for a public hearing. And those bills essentially would enable the same type of election that occurred in 2020, where the Secretary of the State is able to mail out ballot applications to everyone across the state, despite known problems with our voter rolls and problems with the process. So that's very, very important. And I encourage people who are interested to look up that online. And try and join us or submit testimony, that kind of thing. And I'll just close by saying that I'm also very interested in making Connecticut more affordable. The reason why I originally ran for office years ago, and I stand by that. I want to see Connecticut to be a thriving place, and we've got to make it a more affordable place to live, to work, to retire, to do business, and for everyone. I mean, across the spectrum, for new college grads, who graduate from our tremendous universities in the state, but end up leaving to go to greener pastures elsewhere. We need to keep those people there, and we need to keep our seniors here. And there's a lot of things that we could do. We could get rid of the tax on Social Security and pension income would be the very first place to start. Well, why are we letting people retire and then move away to another state because it's more affordable? Let's keep them here. But as the chairman knows, I can go on for quite some time, so I will turn it over to my colleague, Representative Veach.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out and spending some time with us. The good senator here has stole most of my thunder, but I will add a couple of things to it. We're on the same page, certainly, with all of the things that he's talked about. I'm sorry, can you not hear me? Can you hear me now? Yep. Okay. I serve on the Judiciary Committee, Education Committee, and Planning and Development Committees. Criminal justice is my number one priority. We need some sort of reform. Some changes have to happen. I know that they've been diligently working on putting a proposal together with the people across the aisle from us, and I'm hoping that we can come to some sort of resolution because none of us feel safe, including myself. The days of not being able to leave your car warming up in the morning because it won't be there when you go out 5 minutes from now are long gone. So I'm certainly a huge advocate of that. In the education area, I have to say mental health issues are a huge issue for our children. This whole scenario of COVID has destroyed so much for so many. We've got some huge issues in our school systems with learning, how far behind they are, and the lack of the social aspect over the past couple of years. So we're hoping to see some monies funnel into that from the state. So we're told. We'll see what happens. As far as planning and development goes, I'm a huge advocate of you should be able to decide in your communities what you want to build and where you want to build it. I'm sorry, but I just think it's a bit much, the push that's going on. I think that you are entitled. I didn't move to Berlin to live there so that somebody could put up a story building next to me or, 6-unit complex next to me. I moved there because I like the ruralness of it or the suburbanness of it. And I think that all the communities should be allowed to dictate what should be done there and not have to mandate certain things. And I am a firm believer of that. As my good senator said, taxes are an issue. I opened my gas bill the other night, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm running around lowering everything because it's ridiculous. The cost of living is through the roof. I don't know how our young children are going to be able to attend the colleges that they've attended, have that huge college debt that they come away with, find jobs in Connecticut and be able to afford to stay here. It's not going to happen. And myself as approaching, later in life, how do you stay here, and pay the cost of living? It's ridiculous. Things need to be done. Taxes need to be reduced. We need to, figure out a different way. The taxpayer is really taking a beating. And voter integrity is important. You need an ID for everything. Why we don't want, or they don't feel that we need to have an ID to vote is absolutely beyond me. I guess that pretty much sums up. He stole most of my thunder. I just added to it. And I'm sure that we'd be happy to take any questions that you have, if that's
Sure.
okay.
I'd like to leave it at the council level if we could. Does anybody have any, yes, come on. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thanks. So I'd like to thank you both for being here, for taking the time to be here tonight. And I was interested in, I've seen the articles on the mental health bill. So that legislation, is that the legislation that, excuse me, that Dr. Pettit was also getting behind?
Yes.
And
Yes,
so
it is.
that's something that would have
That's a
funding-
House Bill 5001, I believe.
Right, it didn't
Yes,
have a
yes.
number
Yeah.
on here. Okay. So that's something that you're working on in a bipartisan manner, though, right?
Yes,
With-
we are.
With Democrats, and it sounds like it's going really well. And is that the one that will have, looking to have funding for more social workers in the schools, more psychiatrists?
They are looking to do that as well, yes.
Because I agree. I just think that's a huge issue coming
There's
out
a
of COVID.
huge, what they did was a public hearing on, help me with this, was it Friday? Or
Yeah,
is
it
it
did say
tomorrow?
the public,
Is it
it was this past Friday.
Friday? Yes,
The Public
okay.
Health Committee?
Yes, yes.
Do you know how that went?
I think there were a lot of people, and it was still going after my planning and development meeting that ended 8 hours later. So I was listening to some of it. So in my opinion, it went well. I think that most of us agree that something needs to be done.
Yeah, I can tell you that all four caucuses, House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats, have all come out with their individual packages to address mental health concerns. And there's a tremendous amount of overlap, which is a good thing, because when that happens, that shows that we can definitely get some of that passed. Just as a side note, people sometimes think that in the legislature we're at each other's throats all the time, because that's what the news media would have you believe. And there are certainly issues where we are very much divided, and there is a different set of principles that Republicans and Democrats operate by. But would you believe 70%, maybe more, legislation passes through the General Assembly unanimously? So there are a great many things that we do work on together, and that is one that I think that we all can get behind. Obviously, the fallout from the pandemic, and I would say, although my Democratic colleagues might not agree so much, I would say the government response to COVID-19 was also not ideal and created almost as many problems as the pandemic itself. But we've got to address these things, and we certainly have got to restore the quality education that we're accustomed to across the state. And the way to do that is really to get us back to full in-person learning, no more masks on the kids across the state. Thank you to Southernton for leading the way on that. And also, addressing the concerns that have shown up over the last year. I mean, teen suicides are up. Mental health issues are skyrocketing. We can't have a society like this. We have to get that under control. And you've got my commitment to work with my colleagues from Southernton and with both parties to make it happen.
Right, so I just think that's an excellent point that you bring up, Senator, is because we've had some of that going on here at the local level. I think it's just so important for the both parties to be working in a bipartisan manner. And so it's really good on a bill like this that both sides on the Senate and the House are going to be working on that. You'll come up with one bill, though, right, in the end?
I don't know if it'll end up in the form of one large bill or small pieces. It's hard to say. It's a little early in the process yet. And we're certainly not going to agree on everything. I will tell you, for me, I don't see the government as a solution to most problems. So I am certainly not going to be on board with some of the more expensive and global big government solutions, but I do believe that we have to address the mental health issues, especially in our schools, in a direct way. I think the nonprofit system in the state is outstanding. There are loads and loads of qualified people there. We don't have to expand the government necessarily to do that. There's ways to do it affordably and still get a great product.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for working on it.
Thank you, Val. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to say thank you also to the both of you for coming out. Really important issues for us. I also wanted to echo Councilwoman DePaulo's comments about the mental health issues. I mean, I know that we're not the only town that has, especially from a funding perspective, we recognize that there's an issue especially of our Board of Education. There's a significant spend right now from federal and state tax dollars to support the children who have suffered along this, and even today as the masks came off, the problems aren't necessarily going to get better right away. It's going to take some time and it's going to take some support. Even after talking to my daughter today, it looks like there's still a large percentage of children who are opting to wear masks. So you're going to have opposing views there. There's going to be some stresses amongst the kids, both sides of the issue, along with the things that have already occurred. So I think that it's a really important thing that we ask you to continue to work in a bipartisan way on, because we have to ensure that there's still some continued funding until we see this through and get ourselves on some stable ground there. From a community perspective, there's two other topics: the planning and development and the crime. On the planning and development, Representative Veach, I've heard that there's some proposals brewing from some legislature in the state regarding a push for state mandated zoning regulations to the municipalities. I mean, that was always it was always the model that the states followed, was that municipalities had the opportunity to develop their own brand. And I think Southington has a great model. We have all different types of housing. It's done in a planned way. It was done thoughtfully to ensure that there's inventory of many different types of housing, everything from affordable housing to to larger properties if people want it. And I know Commissioner Clock is sitting in the audience. I saw her a little bit earlier. She led an effort in the around 2016 to look at our plan of conservation and development, which consider some of these things. And I know our Planning and Zoning Commission is doing an affordable housing study now. So there'll be even more recommendations that come out of that. But I ask you to let us know, please keep us informed if there's any things that you think might be detrimental to our planning efforts and what we've tried to do as a community to provide for the various needs in the community that might disrupt that. And so please keep us informed on that.
I certainly will, and I will say that 10% magical number that they've looked for, they're looking to move it up slowly and gradually in terms of affordable housing. I see most communities that can move to that number have moved to that number or very close to that number. Depending on the size of each of the communities, it's hard to get to that number for some very small places. If the population doesn't dictate, they have a couple thousand people in town, it's hard to get to that 10% number. But I certainly am an advocate of trying to keep things local in terms of your zoning and your planning. And I certainly will, I would say that there's a bunch of things coming through this year that we need to get. It's a short session, but to keep your eyes out, and we'll try to put those on our Facebook pages and our web pages. If you haven't signed up for either one of ours, please do, because if there's something of interest that affects us as a community, we certainly do get that out there.
Thank you. And on the crime thing,
Can I just
sir,
follow
please.
up on that
Yeah.
just very quickly? I just want to say that the state of Connecticut has no business dictating to Southington or any other town how to handle their local planning and zoning. That's the end of the conversation right there. They really have no right. The people in the town elect a local town government, including a town council, a board of education. Education issues should be determined locally as well, and the state government's got no right to be dictating to local boards of education how to behave. When it comes to planning and zoning, the folks on the Planning and Zoning Committee in the town of Southington are fabulous. They are doing right by the people that live in this town, and they are acting in their best interest. All of this stuff coming from the state is all designed for one purpose, and that is to prop up poorly run large cities by taking money out of well-run smaller and medium-sized towns. That's what it's all about. They can tell you it's about a lot of different things. It's not about any of those things. It's all about redistributing wealth, taking money from a well-run community like Southington and using it to prop up New Haven or whatever neighboring city that is not so well run. That's what it's all about. And that's why we're going to stand very firm and remind people that that's why you elect a local government, because our system in America is all about maximum responsibility and freedom for the individual. And government is supposed to be more powerful the closer it is to home, not the farther away it is. So you guys have much more control about what should happen in Southington than I would, and certainly the federal government.
Thank you. Tom has a question.
Madam
Go
Chair.
ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Senator Sampson and Representative Veach for coming this evening. I know there's always a lot of talk over the last few years about crime, and I know that's always a hot topic up at the Capitol. So I encourage a further discussion on this, whether it's through the mental health support that these teenagers need, or a discussion on penalties for repeat offenders. More importantly, or not more importantly, but a topic that we've discussed at the council level for several years now is public transportation. So my broad question is, has there been any discussions on the current operation of the public transportation system? We know that it doesn't come through Southernton. And additionally, has there been any discussions on alternative measures that a town like Southernton can take to possibly alternative funding sources or methods to help our most vulnerable citizens? And I think that's something that this council and previous councils has had on the radar, and we've gotten basically nowhere with the state. Most recently, our town manager had a meeting, and it's basically the public transportation system doesn't come through Southernton, and it doesn't sound like there's much plans of pursuing that at the state level. So if that issue could be looked at or addressed, I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can add on to Tom's comment
Yeah,
about
go
that.
ahead.
There was a comment that was brought up maybe a month or so ago in one of our meetings about paratransit, which is also a significant need in the town. And there was a great idea about instead of a centralized busing system that can only go onto limited roads around town, which also makes it a challenge for people who require paratransit services. Is there an opportunity for a decentralized approach, an Uber type of approach, where there's an on-demand service that is maybe statewide, or some of the suburbs around Hartford? And did some research on that. I actually reached out to Uber on that because they do have a paratransit.
I did as well.
We didn't get any calls back, but I understand that the state of Connecticut may be looking at piloting something like this. So we would be interested in hearing about that. Mm-hmm. And if there's an opportunity to try something like that, we'd be interested in talking more about that.
I'll just say I wish I knew more about the topic. I mean, there are a few things that you're touching on that I could certainly elaborate on. I served at one point as the ranking member of the Insurance and Real Estate Committee, and amazingly, since the Uber issue was such a hot potato in 2016 and 17, it didn't go through the Transportation Committee. They actually gave it to my committee. So the Insurance Committee passed the Uber bill in the state of Connecticut, and it was a very lively debate. And of course, that topic touches everything from labor issues to insurance to transportation, of course. We definitely talked about paratransit at the time. One of the concerns that people have about the Uber legislation and is really the safety aspect of it, both for drivers and riders. And that's something we could just never get passed out of committee. Enough people to buy into the idea that an Uber type system could work for paratransit. I believe it can. I believe that if there is because the cost is just astronomical for a typical ambulance type product, but you've got to maintain the safety and quality at the same time. So that is definitely being looked at. I don't know what to tell you about the busing thing. I don't serve on the Transportation Committee. If you guys have specific proposals, you want a question asked, I will do everything I can to make sure that I go to the right people. And yeah, I can bang on a lot of doors. Sometimes they listen.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Mike, and after Mike, anybody else have any other questions for the legislature? Okay, let Mike go first.
Thank
and
you.
then
Thank
Jim.
you, Senator and Representative, for coming out tonight. I'm delighted to hear that electricity rates are on both of your radars. We used to get a break in the winter because the air conditioners on used to be a little bit cheaper, but I was speaking with a constituent last week, and they said their heat bill was $700 this month. So it's, 5 years from now, is it going to be $1,000? 12 months a year, $1,000 for electricity, for air conditioning, and for heat. So, I'm hoping that you guys can hold some feet to the fire about these rates. And I don't anticipate them coming down, but, at some point, where does it end? You talk about the future, and I just try to think ahead. I got 2 boys, and they're adolescents now, but when they get a little older and they want to own their own house, and the mortgage is going to be $2,000 a month, and electricity is going to be $1,000 or $1,500, how can they ever afford that? So that's my paramount concern. So I'm delighted to hear that you're both tackling that issue. I don't know if you want to speak more on it, but
Well, like I said, both gas and electric are through the roof, and we need to do something. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'm willing to make some inquiries, as well as the senator, I'm sure, and we'll see what we can do. They're out of control,
Oh, yes.
out of control.
Yeah, no, I've got electric heat at my home in Wolcott, and yeah, that bill's a scary bill. It approaches $1,000 also. So I am very familiar, and I'll tell you, serving in both the House and Senate over the last decade, I have watched countless bits of legislation that were absolutely directly going to raise the cost of electricity bills in our state, go through both chambers. Without as much opposition as was absolutely needed. And I alluded to the reason why earlier, which is that the accountability for the ultimate cost to the consumer is something that doesn't happen in the legislature. The legislature can pass all of the, programs and green energy plans and, restrictions on fracking and everything else that is done that may be good for the environment, and I certainly would support if it was cost neutral. But ultimately, those things continue to be piled on and piled on and piled on, driving up our rates. And my argument, I guess I would make to the majority party on this is that we all believe in green energy. We all believe in sustainable energy, and we want to see us get there. But you cannot move as quickly as you are. We have a requirement in this state to have something like 30% renewable energy by 2030 or something like that. And the technology doesn't even exist to get there yet. And we're all paying for it. So what needs to happen is a legitimate balance between trying to pass the proper path forward on a plan to get us to the most, energy efficient, cost savings type renewable energy as we can, while at the same time balancing everybody's checkbook at home so that the consumers can afford it. This is a huge, huge issue because it touches everything. It's not just the actual electric bill. There's things that we're working on right now about providers. Everybody in this room is probably, does what I do, which is they go and they have to check which provider they have every few months to make sure they got the lowest rate and so forth. And there are a lot of games that those providers play. And hopefully we're going to pass some legislation so that they are more accountable to consumers. Because I've seen them do different things. Like you sign up for a plan and they don't put it into effect for 2 months, but then they don't give you any warning when the price goes up at the end of the contract either. Those things have to change. Those are things we can do. One other thing I would say is that our electric bills are quite dishonest because everybody notices there's a delivery charge and then there is the actual charge for the production of energy. Well, there are many, many costs associated with the production of energy that are on the delivery part of the charge, and they do not belong there. That should be broken out. There's also a million taxes and fees that have been added by the legislature over the years because they're going to say, well, we'll just add a few cents onto this and, per kilowatt hour, it won't add up to much, and we'll use that for whatever program. And, over the course of a few decades, you end up, that's 25% of the bill. And that's where we are. So I have legislation in this year that is going to require that your electric bill breaks it out for you and says what every one of those fees is for, how much it is, and where that money is going. Because I believe that if that transparency gets to the public, they will demand change in the way our electric bills are, at least figured and whether those fees exist.
Thank you, Senator. Jim Morelli has a question. I think that's it then for the council.
I had a couple quick observations. So one was in response to the comments you made about the real allocation of funds from towns. I was very excited to read that the car taxes were going to get reduced by a significant amount until I realized that Southernton underpays. So if anything, I'll probably get a bigger bill because we're not entitled to that benefit from the government. So I would ask for the residents of Southernton, what else could you do in tax reform other than give benefits to the big cities to get their taxes lowered? That was just an observation. Another one I wanted to comment on was the mental health issue that most everybody's around, we're behind. I think it's critical that any programs that are put forward, there has to be an anonymous component. So it has to be easy to get to, and it has to be very confidential. So obviously we have young children that have issues, and they may feel uncomfortable going to the school psychologist. So I think any kind of programs that come out really need to be able to be reached by the people that need them. And then I would be remiss if I let you leave without begging you to help the local ARCs, the people that care for the disabled. Our director literally almost cries. We have such difficulty keeping people to take care of the disabled because we can only pay a maximum amount. I think right now it's $17. They came from like $12 an hour. They now get $17 an hour. They think that we don't pay them because we have money and we don't pay them. We could only pay them when we get reimbursed. So they have a union, and the union says, you guys have more money. Well, we don't. We're a not-for-profit. We can't just find money. Now, I can tell you as a director, we reward those people. So if we have a really good year with fundraising and we have extra money, we give them money for savings and retirement. We give them bonuses, but that's not year over year. And so when you have Dunkin' Donuts with signs that say they pay $15 an hour to hand a coffee out the window, how can we say in good conscience that you're only going to get $17 an hour to take care of a person that can't take care of themselves? So again, you know that we did a big letter writing campaign and we hit it hard. And again, you're here. And so I had to speak my piece for my organization. And thanks for all you guys do.
Thank you. Any,
It depends if you want me to, Madam Chairman.
well, yes, Senator, but
I can keep it brief. I'll just simply say that I have served in the General Assembly since 2011, and I voted for only one budget, and it was a budget that didn't ultimately become law because it was the budget offered by the minority that happened to pass both chambers, but was then vetoed by then Governor Dan Malloy. But the reason why I haven't voted for another single budget as long as I've been there is because a budget is basically a collection of priorities. And I've watched budgets include $500 million to bail out the city of Hartford, $75 million to revamp the XL Center, countless other types of pork and waste without ever addressing the problems that really need to be addressed, as was just mentioned. The other thing that is wrong with every one of those state budgets is that every one of them had a deficit in the out years on the very day it was being voted on. It's like the most irresponsible thing you can imagine. They give you a document that says that if you vote for this budget, we've managed to somehow scrape together some concoction of elements that will balance this budget for the next 2 years. But in the third year, there's a huge, huge deficit. And in fact, the state of Connecticut right now, if it were not for COVID and the mountains, literal mountains and billions of dollars coming from the federal government, we would have a $6 billion budget deficit in the state. It would be the worst thing that you can possibly imagine, far worse than it was back in 2008 and 9 after Rowland left office. And we elected Dan Malloy and he raised the two highest tax hikes in Connecticut history. We are poised for that because this federal money is not going to last forever. And the current state government is going to continue to spend and spend as if it is. And we're going to hit a cliff at some point. And when it happens, it's going to be scary. So I would just encourage anyone paying attention to try and hold their elected officials accountable to say, you need to be spending our tax money much more wisely on a state budget and preparing for the day that that federal money ends.
thank you. I want to thank our state rep and our senator. The invitation, of course, went out to all of our representatives. I know Gail is down in Florida at a conference, and the other representatives obviously could not make it tonight. But we certainly appreciate your time coming here, and feel free to stay as long as you like. But we will take 5 minutes if you'd like to leave graciously. That would be fine. Whatever you'd like to do. But we're going to move on. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for
It's been a
having me.
privilege to join you.
Very good. Thank you so much. We're going to allow our senator and state representative to leave, and then we're going to open up our meeting. And can we please check the heat?
Not after that discussion, Madam
Right.
Chair.
Yeah,
I know.
put a sweatshirt on. Oh,
Put a
not home.
sweatshirt on.
Sorry. Yeah.
I would like Troop 45 to please stand. Would you just stand, Troop 45? We just want to thank you for being here tonight. And We appreciate your service as you stand for America and for all things good. And we are going to thank you again, Senator and Representative. We appreciate your time. I will now call our meeting to order. Madam Clerk, I see you're situated. You're all set. You're ready to roll. Would you please call our roll, please?
Tom Lombardi,
Here.
James Morelli. Here. Christopher Palmeri,
Here.
Yeah, I got it.
Jack Perry,
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky,
Here.
Michael Del Santo,
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo,
Here.
William Diedzik,
Here.
Victoria Triano.
I am here. We're going to stand right now for the prayer, and it's going to be followed by a moment of silence. I think when we look at the evening news, we understand how precious our freedoms are. And so a moment of silence, please, for those who are suffering so terribly, dying for freedom right now in the Ukraine, and all the people that are going to try to help them and bring peace to a very unpeaceful situation. Who has the prayer? Oh, good. Go ahead.
Heavenly Father, give us grace tonight to understand the impact we make upon this community is not just for today, but for the generations who will follow us. Help us to do what is right and, if need be, courageous. We commit ourselves, our decisions, and the town of Southernton under your care. Amen.
Amen. Let's have a moment of silence. Troop 45, would you lead us in our pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. May I have a motion on the minutes from our last meeting, please?
I'll make
So
a,
moved, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. There's a second. Is there any discussion on them? Any additions, deletions?
Madam Chair, just briefly, Attorney Taylor asked me to let you know or amend the minutes to take his name off and put my name on the first page.
Okay, thank you. That seems like a very important thing. Very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries unanimously.
Abstain.
And one abstention. Thank you. Item 3, councilperson's communication. Let's open it up. Yes, Chris.
I have a couple items, both good news items to share. I had the pleasure last Thursday to attend the YMCA annual meeting along with Councilman Morelli and Lombardi and the chair. We had the pleasure of standing on stage and recognizing the person of the year, Diana Sheard, and she certainly made the evening a memorable event. So huge shout out to Diana Sheard for all she does for our community and for the YMCA for recognizing her. I'd also just like to acknowledge the Youth Leadership Award recipients, Elijah Hammond and Ryan Kayak, both spoke very eloquently, opening and closing the event. The Youth Development Award went to Steps Asset Building Classrooms. Healthy Living was for Hartford Healthcare. And Social Responsibility Award this year went to Smoking with Chris. So again, thank you to all the people for supporting the YMCA at the annual meeting on Thursday evening. And then the other item, just to share, a good news item, I don't know if any of you had the chance to see or members of the community, but NBC 30 News actually mentioned Mount Southernton when talking about the Olympics. Mount Southernton then promoted that as well. But it's great when you're talking about obviously a statewide, but national and worldwide event when you're talking about the Olympics, and to have mention of Mount Southernton here makes us proud. So thank you to Mount Southernton for all they do.
Very good, yes. Who else? Yeah, Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to piggyback off of the YMCA theme here, the 17th annual Polar Plunge was held this past Saturday. Just a huge thanks to my sponsors and all the people in town that donated. It was a record year. The YMCA raised over $100,000 to send kids to camp. The Board of Ed team was phenomenal this year. Chris's team over at the Apollo had a great showing. I know the high school math teacher, Mr. Matt Adams, was there in attendance as always. So just a great event to raise money, and it's just a great social activity to get together with people. So thank you again. The other thing too, I was pleased to see on the Town of Southernton website today that there's this, and I'm not 100% up to date on what it is exactly, but there's a UR Community Cares program, and there's information on our website and the Facebook page. It is a program that received funding from the Bradley Henry Barnes Memorial Trust and the Main Street Community Foundation. So basically what it does is it pairs up volunteers with people in the community who need help. So for residents, take a look at the town website for that program that's out there. And that's all I had this evening, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, yeah, a constituent contacted me a couple of weeks ago, was questioning I guess he saw that a resident had their car parked and plugged into one of the charging stations at the library. And he just questioned, he sent me an email and he questioned how come the public is allowed to use the charging stations. So I brought up that they've been there for years, and he was unaware that the public were able to charge their cars. He thought they were just for the electric vehicles for the town. So I told him I'd look into it, and I spoke with the town manager, and I spoke with Ms. Turnquist about it, and we did find the old contract, which I believe it was 2016. Yeah, 2016. And I guess all of the money that was received from grants to purchase the vehicle and to put up the charging stations, or the charging stations.
Two different ones. The charging station, the vehicle was another one.
Right, two separate grants. And I guess part of that contract was that we had to allow the town of Southington to provide free of charge charging for the two spots for a period of 3 years. And I believe that time has lapsed. So I don't know where we go from here, if we're going to continue to allow the public to charge their cars for free. I don't think people are lining up to charge their cars there. As a matter of fact, when I pulled in tonight, the one up front is empty. You know, I know we charge our electric vehicle there, so I was wondering maybe the town manager could weigh in.
Towns that have done this before make it a policy decision after that. Obviously, you could start with the Public Works Committee. My feeling is, of course, is that the original cost of it was by a grant. And if I was making the decision, I would simply say for our residents, because people aren't going to come out of town, park there overnight. It's not going to work. It's for our residents. So, and it's a nominal. I mean, it's probably between, I think, $5 and $15 to charge a car full cycle. I personally would not be in favor of a meter for those because it's for our own residents. But obviously, if you want to start with the Public Works Committee and make recommendations to the council, that's fine.
I think it's we have to do our due diligence if a member of the community is questioning it. So we'll look into it further. More to report on that. I would imagine the one at the library is going to come down once the new library goes up. It's
relocated. It'll be relocated.
Right. So more to follow on that.
Very
Madam
good.
Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Anybody else? Yeah, Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one item. At our last meeting, we talked about the two ordinances. One was the marijuana ordinance and the flag ordinance that was spun out of the Supreme Court decision that's going on right now. And Councilwoman DePaulo and I had an opportunity to catch up. We played a little bit of phone tag, but we caught up with each other, and I wanted to thank Val for a good discussion. And we had agreed as a team that we were going to take the information. We sent it to the Ordinance Committee. We summarized some of the discussion points. Val brought up some thoughtful topics to have the Ordinance Committee consider as well. So we summarized those, had an opportunity to send additional information, and that now has been sent to Bill Dietzick, Councilman Dietzick. I apologize, Bill. And they're going to kick off the Ordinance Committee to review those and make appropriate recommendations, adaptations, et cetera. So that'll come back to the Town Council, whatever those recommendations are. And if there's a recommendation on one or both of those, there'll be public hearings scheduled where there'll be public input that we can gather and take it from there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks so much for working together on that. That was great. Anything else? Yep.
Madam Chair, thank you. To piggyback off the charging stations, I believe Eversource has some program that just launched. Is that correct, Mark?
The governor is, I believe, putting in his budget, whether it gets passed, also whether his money is going to be approved for charging stations. His goal is not necessarily inside cities and towns, but more along the 84, 91, things like that. But I'm not aware that Eversource is granting any free things to the town at this moment, but that could be.
Okay.
That's something we could definitely look into. Oh, sorry, Madam Chair.
That's all right.
If it comes through Public Works, we could certainly look into that.
Okay. And then I have one other question. I had a constituent reach back out to me in regards to Bradley Hospital. Madam Chair, I know that you were going to meet with Gary Havikan about that, and I just didn't hear anything back on that. So
Yeah.
I just didn't know where that
Thank you.
stood.
Yeah, there's nothing right now. I haven't heard officially, nothing yet on it. So it is still operating the way it is, and emergency room is fully functional, and they also allow folks to spend, I think, 1 night or 2 nights if they need something that they can handle there. If not, but it's still, there's been no change at all. So,
Okay. Thank you.
okay, sure. Anything else from anybody? I have a couple of things. Jim, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that next week is the last week for the director of the Senior Center, Bob Verderam. He joined that position in 1986, and he's been there for more than 35 years. And during his time there, he wrote grants for additions on the center. He wrote grants for buses and programs. And more importantly, he made himself available to seniors. I had a long discussion with him, and we talked about how whether it was navigating Medicare, Medicaid requirements to get medical care that they needed, or all the way to balancing checkbooks. He pretty much assisted our seniors with anything that they needed at almost any time. During my conversation, we started to talk about all the support that he got from our local and state politicians. And I started to make a list of the different people, and it got so long, I said, Bob, I can't single all these people out. It's just not possible. So again, he said, please tell everybody that he really felt comfortable that he got support from every board, every politician, both local and state, and that made him that allowed him to do his job well. Let's see. Yeah, he touched the lives of so many seniors in town directly in that position, and he speaks very fondly of all that. And so I just wanted to wish him, his wife, and his 2 daughters, Nicole and Kayla, the best of luck and big success in the future. And he will be missed.
Yes, he will, and we wish him the very best. Thank you, Jim. I just have a couple of things
Madam
if
Chair?
everyone else is
Sorry, I
done.
just
Oh,
have-
no, go ahead.
Thank you. Before you
Sure.
go. So I have at the last meeting, I had talked about the company in Bristol, Connecticut, Covanta, the air quality issue. Okay, so there is there's another informational meeting being held this Thursday at 6:30 at the Bristol Public Library. So I know it's over in Bristol. Senator Henry Martin is hoping to have a Southernton meeting. So he's hoping to have a meeting here in Southernton, and we're going to try to set up that date. But if you're interested and you want to get to an informational meeting, it is Thursday at the Bristol Public Library at 6:30.
Val, did you want to maybe just elaborate on what that is for the people who are here?
Yeah, so
'Cause that's an important topic, I
Okay.
think.
So Covanta is a waste company in Bristol. They've applied for a medical waste permit to be able to burn biomedical materials. So for us, for people that are living on the border or over on that side, it's really an air quality issue. And, there's some issues with it. Myself and Councilor Perry and a couple other people attended a meeting that they had here in Southernton a few weeks ago. Very informative, and some good questions are being asked. And there's obviously pros and cons to this. So, there's some concern. So So I just think it'd be great if we can have a meeting in Southernton, and as soon as we get a date, we'll try to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
And, Madam Chair, I just have a couple other things.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. No,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So I just want to give a shout out to the Southernton girls basketball team tonight. Begins their Class L tournament play, and they finished 18-4. Had a good run in the conference tournament in the semifinals, and they're seeded 8th in the tournament. So they start tonight. So I was able to speak with the team a couple weeks ago. Just a great group of young women, and they play like a team, and it would be nice to see them make a successful run in the tournament. So just wanted to wish them luck.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, just one thing I just did want to talk briefly about is the editorial that was in the Record Journal. I didn't know if you were going to speak to that at all tonight.
You know what, Val, why don't you go ahead and do it? It is on my list, but I'd like to have you go ahead.
Okay, so just, it's, as I've been able to reflect on it, it's important. It's important, we have a lot of people here tonight, and we have young people, we have seniors that look to us, right? We're town leaders, and they look to us to set an example. And, I think each and every one of us up here takes that seriously.
Yes,
and, so the way we act and the way we react to things is, it's very important. And as I reflected on the editorial, and it does go back to the statements that Councilor Del Santo and I had, there was just a couple of things that I really wanted to point out. The Democratic Party lost the election, but the three of us sitting here, we won a seat on the council, right? So, we have the privilege of sitting up here and serving the town with you. So it's a council of 9, and I just think that's so important. It just seems from the time of the election through, over these few months, it's been a constant, we've been hearing, you lost. Are you sure you lost? You lost. And to hear that over and over again, that should not be what we're about. The party lost, we understand that, but the three of us won a seat, and we should be, as Paul and I were able to do this past week, we should be able to work together and set that good example, for people in our town, especially young people. So, I started thinking about, and I know many of you know, I've been around sports, most of my life, as a matter of fact, playing and coaching. And so I've been around winning and losing. And there's lessons to be learned with both. There's lessons to be learned when you lose, and there's lessons that are learned when you win, and how you should be in winning. So, when you lose, you want to rise up the next day and get back at it and keep your head up and swallow your pride and just move forward, right? When you win, there's a way to win in a dignified and a good way. Are you humble? Do you have grace? Are you respectful? Do you have integrity? And so, that's what I started to reflect on, is that, there's winning and losing, and there's lessons in both that we can teach children and teach our young adults and teach everybody, actually. We all should fall under this. And that's just with some of the statements that are made over the last few months, from the majority to us, that, you lost, you got to work harder, and it doesn't seem like that's winning with grace or winning with dignity. Like, let's that's the point I was trying to make at the last meeting, and I think that's when it kind of got out of hand. Is we know we lost an election, but we're here. We're one of 9, and we're a group of 9, and I truly hope that we can pass those values on to the people in our community, that we need to work together so that we can get some work done. And I know, Mike, you said you have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and I hope that that we can do that. So thank you, Madam Chair. For
Sure,
allowing
of
me to
course.
talk about that.
Yep, absolutely. And it was interesting because I've written a few things down that I wanted to mention also. And primarily that I know every person up here has one desire to do best for Southington. I believe that in my heart. And sometimes things get hot, and when I read the editorial, I really felt that it was very important for us individually to take a look at our own hearts and our own what we're doing, and how sometimes what we know is good sometimes gets very mixed up and it doesn't come out as being good. So I see it as a time of self-evaluation. I wrote that I was going to, I wanted to say that that certainly was not our best hour as a council. But we will do better. And I do that from a personal perspective. I will do better. With God's help, I will do better. And that's a promise that I made to the Lord and also to myself, that I want to do better. And I think all of us that have went through that last meeting probably is going through their own self-evaluation, which is very, very important. It makes us take stock and change just a little bit. Get you're driving a car. You don't just drive a car straight like that. You have to adjust to the road that you find yourselves on. And I think that we will do better because I believe in the integrity of everybody sitting on this dais. And so with that, I thank you, Val. I think that all of us have learned a great deal in the last week. And we appreciate the comments from the public. We appreciate the comments in the paper and within ourselves. And so we will do better. And with that, we will go on. So I just have a few things other than that I want to talk about very quickly. I have learned that our new Disabilities Commission has received a list of the disabled folks that need help if there's ever an emergency or whatever through the police department. They've received that list and are physically calling every single person on that list to talk to them about their needs, their transportation needs, and they're actually doing very, very good data research on Southington people, and I'm just very happy that that's going on. And so just to give a little bit of a update on that. The other thing I wanted to say, the Record Journal did not have it correct. At last meeting, we did say that we were going to discuss charter revision tonight, but because we had the legislators here and we have a very long executive session tonight, I felt it was best to put it off to our next meeting, so that way all of us can talk about it and really get into what it is and do we want to move further. And so we will be discussing it. I let the council know, but it still appeared in the paper today that we were going to have a discussion today on it. So I apologize if anyone thought that we were going to discuss charter revision. It is not on our agenda, but I just wanted to make that clear. Also, I was very privileged today. I was at the police department when Main Street Foundation with the Bradley Barnes Fund and the Rotary of Southington made a $50,000 donation to the police department to buy defibrillators, AEDs, and to help restore some of the old defibrillators that the officers have. So it was quite exciting to see that gift come in and very helpful to our police department. I know we have a commissioner right here, and it was very inspiring, wasn't it? I thought that it was very nice. So those things I wanted just to let folks know. And again, thank you to our legislators. And that's all I have. So let's move on. And the report on special committees, the Self-Insurance Committee. Tom, would you start us off, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize for the long report, so please bear with me this evening. I did send a brief email to the council earlier just to give you some background on what's forthcoming from the Self-Insurance Committee. Self-Insurance Committee met on Wednesday, February 16th. First, I want to go over the fiscal year 21-22, the budget status for the current year. We reviewed results through January, which is 7 months through the fiscal year. And for the fiscal year, 7 months, we are under budget by $65,820, which is good news. However, we did have a large amount of claims come through in January. We were actually $929,000 over budget on a month-to-month basis for January. So we're not exactly sure why, but a lot of claims came in. It could be that COVID is going away slowly. More people are getting elective procedures done. So we're following that closely. And with the over budget amount in January, the committee decided to not take any action on adjusting the funding level for fiscal year 22 and 23. So the numbers that we see in the town manager's budget for both the town side and the Board of Ed are what the Self-Insurance Committee recommended in previous months. We also reviewed the reserve fund policy. The Self-Insurance Committee has a very healthy reserve fund, but we decided to not take any action on changes, mainly because of the high claims that came through in January. We wanted to wait. And the important news that went out is that the Self-Insurance Committee is recommending a self-insurance carrier change, which is what I emailed out to you folks. The Self-Insurance Committee recommended a change to Cigna based on the following factors: innovative healthcare service model, Cigna's approach to wellness, overall financial competitiveness of their proposal, commitment to service, Cigna's review and confirmation to match or exceed all benefits currently offered to employees, and Cigna's confirmation that no additional case management requirements will be implemented, and Cigna's exceptional provider match of 96% of utilized providers, including all of Connecticut's hospitals. So our Michelle Passamano, the town human resources director, has a meeting scheduled for this Thursday, March 3rd. It's not open to the public. It's an informational session for the union leadership. So from there, there will be comments that are directed towards Michelle and the town manager. And my goal for the council is to have this matter come before us for our March 28th meeting. I've also asked our insurance consultant, Joe Spurgeon from Lindbergh and Ripple, to attend that meeting, which I'm hoping for March 28th. And like I said to the council in the email today, if there's any questions, feel free to email me or the town manager, and we can direct them to our insurance consultant and get anything answered. I know that's a lot. Switching over insurance carriers is a big move for the town. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom? Yes, Val.
Just a couple, Tom. So if we make the switch, when does that?
If we make the switch, it would be effective for July 1st, 2022. So that's why I was aiming for the March 28th meeting, so that town staff has adequate time to, get the new policy cards out to the employees and go over any changes. So July 1st.
Would we be asking questions of the consultant that night?
Yes, we can ask the consultant questions that night. If you have anything ahead of time, feel free to email them along. Okay. But Mr. Perry serves on that committee as well, and I think Joe Spurgeon is a fantastic consultant. So if you ask him a question on the spot, he'll know the answer. And it gets pretty technical. So that's why it's great.
He's on board with this, though. He's recommending.
Yes. And we interviewed four 4 different providers in executive session at our February 2nd meeting. So we interviewed them, went through various aspects of all the proposals that came through, and he's on board with the Self-Insurance Committee's recommendation.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other special committees? Jim, did you want to bring us up to date?
Yes, I was just looking for the time, but I couldn't find it. The Library Building Committee received 17 bid proposals for the building of the new library. We've been reviewing them, and we will discuss those in executive session on Wednesday. We also have several packages that came in from the architects, which I think are, the last day is tomorrow. So those will get opened on Thursday. And our next meeting, as I said, is Wednesday, the 2nd, and I'm not sure if it's 6 or 7. Do you remember?
6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock. Okay, sorry. I was trying to look it up on the website, but I didn't get that far. And that's the update for the library. We're excited. There's a lot of interest, and we have some really good stuff to go through.
Work it out for us.
Thank you so much. Very good. Let's move on. Any other questions for anybody? Okay, good. Town Manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening. The first item I had is already gone through the Public Works Committee. This is for the cleaning of the catch basins and inspection bid. The bids went out on January 20th. You see in your packet, the Public Works Director is recommending a National Water and Main Cleaning Company, and that's for $105 per catch basin, which includes all the disposal of the materials on there. Obviously, from a cost basis, they were far superior, and their recommendation from other towns were fantastic, so we're recommending them. Any questions?
I have a question. Sure. I know that former Councilor Maselli is probably watching, but did we have any
Yes.
Southernton companies?
Yeah, but they weren't within that time. If you look at it, it's $153 versus $105, so it doesn't match the criteria.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have
Yeah.
a question for Mark.
Sure.
So I read this, and obviously the prices are all over the board, and looks like town staff is recommending going with the cost per catch basin with disposal. My question is, again, that's going to be special waste. So I just wanted to make sure that, again, because of liability purposes, that they show proper documentation so it doesn't come back onto the town of Southington.
Absolutely correct, and that's part of the process.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions? The next 2 items I have, Madam Chair, is that there's 2 recommendations from the Seed Committee. Those of you who do not know, the public does not know what the Seed Committee is. The Seed Committee is a committee appointed by the council, which oversees our enterprise zone. So when a company is within our enterprise zone, they could make an application to the Economic Development Coordinator. It goes to the Seed Committee, and then it comes to the council for ratification. So the 2 I have tonight, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going to
Step off
recuse
the-
myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
The first one I have is 64 Triano Drive. That's HQ Dumpsters and Recycling. They're a very large company in town, obviously, and then they're putting a 4,000 square foot addition, purchasing for approximately $125,000 in equipment. Their recommendation is a tax abatement per the enterprise zone of 7-year commercial tax abatement, which qualifies for real property only and would not include personal property. That's the first one. The second one is Mazzotti Electric, and that's at 120 Industrial Drive. We're recommending that be put into the industrial abatement period, which is 5 years, 80% tax abatement for both real and personal property. That is new to the grand list, and they obviously have the the industrial classification as necessary. This is for a 3,000 square foot addition, and they're adding another 2,000 square foot addition, and they're also having several items of personal property. So the Seed Committee is recommending that both of these get approved under your action items.
Okay, any questions, anybody?
I have a quick question, Madam Chair.
Yep, go ahead.
What's the, Mark, what's the overall benefit on both of these? Roughly, is there an estimation on what the tax benefit might look like?
All I can tell you is what the square footage of the new additions are going to be on here. I
We
don't
have
the
those, yeah.
exact
Okay,
figures.
thanks.
Okay.
If there's
Actually, I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So it goes to, so Seed makes a decision,
recommendation.
the recommendation to us, and then they're asked for ratification from us. What is Seed? Is it just kind of like you fit in this box, you get it? Is there
Yes,
any-
this is not a town tax abatement. This is a tax abatement under the state of Connecticut, under the statute. If the state of Connecticut authorizes a town such as Southernton to have enterprise zone, if you fit within that enterprise zone, then it goes through the process, starts with economic development to the seed committee and then to the council.
Any other questions? Okay, let's go on.
The next item I have, Madam Chair, is from our Director of Planning and Community Development, as well as our Planning and Zoning Commission. Those of you, and I know there's several of you on this board who have done it, those of you who have worked closely with our zoning regulations, they're not the most user-friendly. They're very well written in the text, but to get from one section to another, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So as you may be aware, there was $15,000 in the budget to do the affordable housing plan. But our director received a grant for the $15,000. So what the commission would like to do is start the process of reviewing their regulations and starting to make them more user-friendly, to say the least. So in this particular case, you see the recommendations from the director, and her recommendation is planometrics for $15,000. Any questions on that?
Yes, go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you. So, Mark, I was able to speak with Peter Santago on the planning and zoning. This is a great idea, obviously. But he brought up that he's really concerned about the, if they would be able to do an audit to really look into, updating for legal updating and cases and.
This is only the first step.
So they wouldn't do that in this.
No, the whole process is going to be several thousands of dollars, which would be done over a several year period. This is the first step where they look at them, they review them, and give recommendations as to where they go with those, such as looking at the case law to see if it's written correctly and updating that part of it. So obviously the money that's available, if it's not used, would be obviously lost at the end of the year. So between the director and I, as well as the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, we felt now's a good time to start because the money is available. It's already been processed. So let's start the process. And then in the next several years, they'll be able to dictate how much the budget's going to be to do the thing totally. So we're going to start with this.
Okay. It seems to me that would be really important. If our regulations are outdated, it would be great to be able to know. And I think that's where, if you know that there's some legal cases or some issues, we would be able to avoid some problems, right?
Avoiding lawsuits is the way to go when it comes to regulations. So between now and the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, we can get that process starting using these funds.
Okay. Good, thank you.
That's good.
Just to follow up, and I think if that's okay, and I think you touched on this. So the 16,000 that's available, they're going to start making improvements. They're not going to wait for the recommendations for the professional consulting.
That we're doing the contract from this is the professional consulting now. They're doing it.
Planometrics.
Yes.
Okay.
So the symmetry is Planometrics is also doing our affordable housing plan. So they're doing our affordable housing plan, which doesn't have to do with our current regulations per se, but they're also going to be reviewing our current regulations.
Okay.
So
they'll complement each other. Okay.
I have a quick question. Madam
Sure.
Chair. Mark, on the, looking forward, 2026 is not that far away. So we will have a new plan of conservation and development coming up. So can we ensure that whatever we're doing here, we catalog, we make sure we keep a documentation and recommendations? Because I'm sure there's going to be some recommendations come out of this for maybe some changes. Some of those might get adopted before the 2016, but some we should make sure that we keep so that whenever we do work on the 2026 plan of conservation and development, we can use this input for that.
And I think they're working closely with the committee that's implementing the last plan of development, which is how it's supposed to work.
Yep.
Then in this particular case, having these experts on board to ask questions for will be working out.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Madam.
Oh, yes. Tom?
No, please.
Also, Madam Chair, as you mentioned, we are going to have a very, hopefully not long in the fact that it's going to be dragged out, but the fact that it's going to be something I think that's important for us to get updated on. We're going to have both our police chiefs and the chair of the fire commission in executive session with us.
Fire chiefs.
Yeah, the two. What I say?
Police.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm here for you, Mark.
Okay, Chief Paul's already given me the evil eye.
He does have a lot, yeah.
The two fire chiefs and the chair of the fire commission will be in executive session with us tonight.
Great. I just want you to know I'm ordering pizza at midnight.
Madam
Yes, please.
Madam
Tom?
Chair, I had one additional question, if it's okay through you.
Yes,
The town
please.
manager. To the town manager, can you please update the council and the public about regarding the memo that was sent to you from the Director of Public Works regarding the air conditioning unit at JFK School. We had a resident, it must have been 3 or 4 months ago, I believe.
It was only 2 meetings ago.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Time
It's
flies
been,
when you're
it's been a,
Feels like 3 months.
it's been a long
Yeah.
month. Okay. So yeah, there was an issue over there. So can you just update the public on
The
that?
council asked me to work with both the Public Works Director and the Director of Operations of the Board of Education. They did go out there. They got some ideas. I gave you a memo with some ideas on it and the estimated cost of some things, but none of this can take place until we do a full load test. And as soon as the weather gets warm, probably, hopefully, well, I'd like to see the weather get warm tomorrow, but I don't think it'll, but probably in May, we'll be able to do a full load test and we'll be able to, if that works, then we'll be able to implement that. Now, I don't know if it's nothing's 100%, but hopefully it'll make the situation better.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much.
I have one more question
Yes,
back
please,
to
go
the original, the agenda item. The costs that are not included, the GIS mapping, do we have funding for that if it's needed based on the
We actually
recommendation?
budget every year. We budget substantial amounts for GIS mapping.
Okay.
I think last year we budgeted between $75,000 or $100,000 for GIS.
Okay, and then the other cost that it mentions is actually to our town attorney. So it mentions any legal review. So I assume that's in your parameter to the town attorney to complete as well.
And he will charge us for that. But
Okay.
that's okay. He's
Okay.
entitled to do that.
Freebie.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Shoda. Let's move on to our town's attorney report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to report that town staff was able to get your, thanks, Mark. Pleased to report that town staff was able to get the 800 East Street property in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission on, I believe, February 15th. And there should be a memo in your packet with a favorable recommendation back. That's on the agenda for action tonight. I did speak with the trustee. They're absolutely elated that it came through positive, and they said that the decedents will be very happy if it passes tonight. That's all I had.
Thank you. Anything else for the town attorney? Hearing none, let's just move on right now. We're going to public communication. I would ask you to come, give your name and address, and we are here to listen, and we will treat you with respect. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Town Council members. My name is Pamela J. DiPaolo. I live at 54 Delahunty Drive in Southernton, and I'm president of DiPaolo's Furniture on 83 and 39 Center Street. There's a proposed town ordinance prohibiting cannabis, tobacco use, smoking, and vaping on town property, which I read about. And the state of Connecticut, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, has a statute already in place prohibiting these uses. So I know there's a proposal here to adopt this, and I would like to strongly urge this town council to approve an adoption of this proposal as soon as is possible. My company's property in downtown Southington on Center Street, the public sidewalks on Center Street, as well as the air quality, have suffered greatly with the ill effects of smoke-filled air and the visual ugliness of cigarette butts littering the sidewalks from the various establishments, the bars, and so forth, up and down Center Street. The establishments near our business do not clean up the cigarette butts, and the very unpleasant and unhealthy smoke from smokers going in the restaurant or bars and then coming out and standing outside on the sidewalk outside our front doors on Center Street is extremely bothersome. The closeness of the buildings, as you know, downtown, we have a very small, tightly compacted downtown. The large numbers of bar patrons standing outside smoking, particularly in the warmer weather, maybe not so much now, but on weekends, though, too, in the winter, and congregating there on the sidewalk to have a smoke on the busy Thursday through Sundays in particular. The businesses there creates a negative environment outside for customers trying not only to walk freely up and down these sidewalks to access all the various businesses, but also a deterrent to the pedestrian flow. It slows down the people trying to enter and exit the stores and the various businesses on the street. So I ask you to please adopt this ordinance. The appearance and the constant presence of the pollution is really getting to the point where it's quite unsightly, and I ask you to please go forward with this as soon as it's possible. Along the same line, we've had problems with the overflow of trash. Actually, just today, I spoke with Don Perone and I spoke with Chris Laporte at the police department as well. The overflow of trash in the public receptacles on Center Street is a result of bags of household garbage and fast food debris from areas other than downtown businesses being discarded there. And I did speak with Don Perone today, and the town highway department, I'm confident and I know for sure that they're doing their job to maintain these receptacles, but as soon as they're emptied on Monday, which happened actually today, and on Mondays happens to be kind of a slow day normally because a lot of the restaurants are closed. We are open every Monday. And so they, according to Don, they're there around 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 12 or 1 o'clock, they're all overflowing. So where's that coming from? And I specifically asked him, and he did say that there's household garbage coming out of those receptacles. So we are, I would like to see the town design or adopt some sort of an ordinance to prohibit household garbage from being discarded and overfilling these receptacles. I know that several months ago I read about the town of Wallingford had the same problem in their downtown on their Center Street. And they did actually adopt some sort of fees or something of that nature to help prevent this from happening. By the way, along the same line, we also did have sewer backups happening about 6 months ago twice, and the sewer department did take care of that, but there's backups with tampons, masks, all sorts of debris, flushable wipes, flushable, quote unquote, going into our sewer system. So the sewer department had to do a flush downtown on Center Street, but we had a backup in our store, and we hardly ever use our toilet. And our customers don't even really use it at that store. So there's a lot of things going on here. I did cut out an article and I submitted it to Mark Shota. I believe you probably read that by now. So that Wallingford, again, is also addressing this problem. So I'd like to see our town, get up to speed on this a little bit more. We have to pick up beer cans, beer bottles, empty liquor glasses, and all sorts of litter around our properties downtown. We're talking on the sidewalks and in the roadways, on Center Place, Center Street, on Liberty Street, and so forth. We're always picking up beer bottles. So apparently, and the poor police department, they've been responding so well and so promptly to us whenever we call and say, gee, we've got a couple of glasses, literally with straws in it and liquor that's been carried out from an establishment, which is not supposed to be done. So I believe that this whole issue of people smoking and vaping and all of that stuff, maybe the drinking will slow down on the sidewalk if the smoking is prohibited, you see? So all of those negative behaviors that are affecting the downtown and making us look bad, really. I mean, people coming from out of town, which we have many, many out-of-town customers. And you want our downtown to look clean. And, we keep the sidewalks clear of snow, and we spend a lot of money and a lot of time on this. To keep our sidewalks clear. And then you have these people coming and dumping cigarette butts and beer cans, and it's a constant battle. So it's time we stopped having to live with unnecessary garbage on our downtown streets and sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Now, I know there's some of you that are just sitting there that you want to speak. We have a big audience tonight. Anybody?
Hi.
Hi.
Katie Wade, 39 Madeline Lane. I understand there were members of this council that did not appreciate being addressed publicly at the last meeting for something that perhaps their fellow councilor could have reached out about privately to clarify. And I get that. But a lack of communication between parties on this council seems to be the arrangement at the moment. And so I assume it was a similarly frustrating experience when the majority announced their intent to open the charter for reasons they seemingly won't share with their peers from the minority party. My understanding from what the town attorney said at the last meeting is that changes to the charter will take a 2/3 vote to pass to referendum. So if the majority is in agreement, you have those votes. Keeping this information from your fellow councilors seems to serve no purpose other than shutting their voices out of the process. Councilman Palmieri offered that the minority would like to work collaboratively. That's an easy thing to say when you're the one in the minority. But I trust that most people you represent just want transparency in the process and for our leaders to be able to work together. I am aware this can sound naive to some, or disingenuous to those inclined to that way of thinking, but I am a big believer in a two-party system, and genuine representation would be to allow people a chance to convince you of their positions, and frankly, to honestly persuade them of yours. I guess you don't have to. The majority of the people who turned out to vote gave the Republican Party a supermajority. But there were many thousands of your neighbors who voted for the Democratic members of this council. And amazingly, I know some people still vote for members of both parties, like a classic Mike Del Santo, Jack Perry voter in the mix. I expect that if you listen to each other, you will disagree on many points. And you should fight for what you think is the right direction for Southington. And at the end of the day, the majority has the votes. It's a strong position, and it seems you'd be giving away nothing by listening. And listening to the minority perspective can only strengthen the decisions that come from this council and people's confidence in our local government. I thank all of you for the time you devote to this town, and I thank you for your attention this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Sargent, 25 Birchcrest Drive. I'd like to thank Senator Sampson for coming up and speaking tonight. I didn't have any intention of talking on it, but you spoke on something about the child, mental health crisis, and having been up CCMC the last couple of weeks on some business in Ward C. It's way worse than anything that I watched 38 kids come in there in one day, and they put them in hospital beds, and they lined them up from here to the parking lot. When you don't have a criminal justice system for the kids, guess where they go? To the psych ward. Never mind the children who do have real mental problems. IOL, I looked into it after. IOL has 16 beds for children 16 years old. They got a waiting list of 3 to 5 months. So your option is when you go to CCMC, they will put a child, they had children in bathrooms on hospital beds. They had children lined up and down the hall. It's a glorified lockup for a prison. It's bad, really bad. And there are a lot of kids out there. Now, once they're in there, then their information is sent to a facility that they may qualify for. And the facilities only pick and choose who has the best insurance first and foremost, and how they're going to make more money on it, and the ones that are going to be the least problems. And they sit and they wait, and they wait, and they wait. And they can wait in a lockup for months at 12 years old, a child. This is way worse than anyone realizes. You'd only have to be there to see it for a little bit. I don't know what the answer is, but I sat there and I watched it. And someone needs to address this. These are our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else? Last call. Anyone else? Thank you, everyone who came forward this evening. Let's move on. Item 8, old business, catch basin cleaning and inspection bid. Chris?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please. Discussion, please. No discussion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Item B.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Would
thank
I be able to recuse myself on the next item?
Yes, please.
And
Thank you so
also, would you mind if I just gave a little bit of background just for transparency purposes?
What's that?
On the abstention?
Yeah, on the abstention?
On abstaining? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Or to remove myself from the dais. Can I just
sure.
explain why, just so that the people that are watching? So the next item is a business that I'm one of the principal members on. So for all transparencies, I will be stepping down from the dais while this decision is being made. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jack, very much. Okay, action on item B, tax abatement for HQ.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax abatement as recommended from the Seed Committee.
Do I have a
Second, Madam Chair.
You seconded it, Val? Okay. Madam Clerk, please, any discussion? Sorry.
Just, I have a question to the town attorney. We did get a memo on this today, on this topic today. You're comfortable with the way things are, so we're good to go on this?
I'm comfortable. My decision is outlined and to all council and town manager. I spoke with the town manager as well. No obvious objections to the council voting tonight.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item C, action on tax abatement for the Masati.
Call Councilman Perry.
Oh, yes, Councilman Perry, come on up.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the tax abatement as recommended once again by the Seed Committee.
Very good. May I have a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item D, action on the zoning regulations update contract,
Madam
correct?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Very good. Any discussion?
I just want to say, Madam Chair, after serving a long time in the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think it's important that we're always either redefining and making sure our regs are up to date and serving its public. So I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to hearing the results from the information provided.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to comment that I think it's timely because of the fact that we're getting ready to review for the next POCD, and the input that we got from this consultant the last time was invaluable. So again, I'm very much in favor.
Very good, thank you. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item F, the authorization purchase of 800 East Street.
We skipped E
Did I skip something?
Action.
Oh,
first.
824, right?
Yes.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And I'll second that
And that's
motion.
seconded by Chris. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead,
I
please.
just wanted to thank everybody for working on this. We were under although it wasn't breakneck time constraint, it was a time constraint that we had, and I wanted to thank the Corrin family for thinking of the town of Southernton and offering us an opportunity to purchase this property for open space. It's going to be a beautiful piece that does abut existing open space that have trails on it off of East Street. So this is going to be a beautiful addition.
That's beautiful. I'm so excited about it. Any other?
Just
yes.
one other comment. Aside from abutting existing open space, it's also very beneficial in the location in regards to Camp Sloper. So it's really an added benefit aside from existing town property. Just to be able to complement the Y property really is a home run. So.
Oh, yeah. Any other discussion pieces? Yes, Jack?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank you guys for including us on the discussion of this. I think it's very important for us to maintain as much open space at a reasonable cost for the town of Southington. So I want to just thank you guys for working with us. Thank you.
And I think it's important, Madam Chair, if I may. It's important to clarify, Chris, you had mentioned that there was that there's some benefit also for Camp Sloper. The town does have an agreement based on a previous open space purchase that we made that does abut this, because some people may wonder, why would we buy property to benefit Camp Sloper? There's an actual partnership agreement that we have that allows residents to park in the lower parking lot of Camp Sloper and access the existing parcel of open space, and also allows the Camp Sloper campers to hike on the trails that existed on the original piece So this just adds to that. So just in case there was some questions about the Camp Sloper piece, I wanted to make sure everybody knows that there's an existing relationship there.
Great.
And I might as well add that I think it's wonderful that the family gave us the first right of refusal on that property at a very fair price. So they made it easy for us to do our job.
Very good. Any other comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri.
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, that's wonderful. Item F, now we're at the action to authorize the purchase of 800 East Street
Motion to approve, Madam.
for $180,000. You made the motion, Paul. I got you. I just finished reading it.
Gotcha. Sorry.
I'm sorry, somebody seconded. Was it you, Val? Yeah, very good. Val seconded it. Any discussion? I'm elated about this property. This is great. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. That's great. Let's move on to new business, tax refunds.
I'd like to make a motion to approve our tax refunds that were presented in our packets.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries unanimously. Thank you. We have an appointment this evening, Paul, to the
Actually,
Conservation.
It's me.
Oh, I'm so
I've been
sorry.
given the name of
It-
Wayne Stanforth to be appointed to the Conservation Commission. I hereby appoint him for a term expiring April 2025.
Thank you, Mark. I will entertain a motion. I want to just thank everybody that's in the house tonight and all of us on the council. It's been rough, but as I said, we're going forward, and tonight proved it. So that was great. May I have a motion, please, to adjourn into executive
Motion to
session?
adjourn and enter into executive session barring the press and the public and including
The two fire chiefs, as well as the chair of the fire commission.
chiefs and the head
Do I
of the
have-
fire commission.
And do I have a
the town
second?
attorney.
I'll second
And there's
that.
no action, right?
And there's no action
side of it,
afterwards.
no.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can we stay in here?
As long as,
Can we stay in here?
if we can.
Yeah, we can stay here as long as we get
As long as
everyone.
everybody leaves?
Yeah.
So the council is going to do executive session here, so we would ask you to please go home. Okay, only?
John.
John.